Hello and welcome back to this edition of Daily Active brought to you by Bootleg Macro. I'm Dustin. We are looking at NIO once again, and it's sad to say that we're here. I mean that with all seriousness because while this is not financial advice, we are not giving you any recommendations. I do understand that as a trader myself and as somebody who has built something that takes so much time like this, anything that's down 17.07% in one day and down 19% in 5 days, 22% in 15 days, 21% in 1 month, that's painful. That's painful for everyone involved unless you've been short to the bone, in which case I applaud you and your ability to short something that was clearly breaking out just a little over a month ago. We can see now, though, that we do have weekly sentiment is still bullish. The daily sentiment is very, very bearish. It does look like we have a trend price at the very top here. So if it broke 1135, we'd start to say it's probably bullish again. But obviously, we look, the red line is the 15-day moving average. The blue line is the price. Nothing looks great. If you look to the right here, you've got essentially what will be the trade range. We'll look at a little bit later. We are at the bottom of the range and we have broken all the way down below. I don't even know what the bottom of the range necessarily was. We can see from the highlight view, at least if we're thinking about the overall market, on the macro, we are still in a bull market. On the micro, we are very much in a bear market. We are very much in a bear market. And you can see that when you're looking at stocks like NIO. And the reason I say that is because what is this? So here's the market cap. What is that? $14 billion, maybe? I mean, $14 billion, while that is a lot of money in the real world for any normal human, in the market or in companies, in the existence of companies in the stock market, not huge at all. If we go look at the actual raw data here, what we're going to notice, I mean, again, we have the chart. If we look, we have blue lettering with a white background. That means we're 3 standard deviations below our 23-day moving average, which you'd think, obviously, like that's a big deal. But the fact that it happened all in one day, I mean, if you look here, this is where we look at the price. The price has been below the 23-day moving average, and it has been below its 5-day moving average since the 7th of August. And ever since then, essentially, all we've seen, if you want to count the 14th here, all we've seen essentially is the worst of the worst, and the worst get worse. I mean, we are negative currently on a 1-day, 5-day, 15-day, 1-month rolling return. We have been negative on the 1-month rolling return since the 21st of August. If you watch my videos, that's a really important indicator to me. The reason why is the 1-month rolling return. While yes, it doesn't seem like it's a big deal, actually, like you don't want to use this as a one factor thing, it is significant to pay attention to. It's something that you want to notice because if you get a negative 1-month rolling return, that means you've given up 20 full trading days of activity. Do you know how much a bear has to win for bulls, which is the natural order of the universe, essentially in the stock market, to get overridden? I mean, if we look here on the short term, intermediate term, and the longer term, we have no signals. We don't have go long. We don't have a go short. We've lost our go short signals, which are our most recent, like really strong signal. We still have bearishness in our short term indicators in terms of our sentiment. We have bearishness in our longer term daily indicator. I mean, obviously that's what's really maintained. And what's interesting now is that I think the move that we just saw, I can't necessarily say, but it looks like it surprised a ton of people, and it makes sense now. And if I look, because the reason what I'm paying attention to is this gap here. This gap at the very beginning of the month really skewed the data, and the reason I say that is because if I look at my rolling sentiment, I'm clearly getting rising bulls right now, but that's because it was so negative, and then that gap down, the speed with which we went from going up above 58 to down below 42, that speed was unusual, and it makes sense because we had a drop. We had a gap down, and then since this moment, we've only gone a little bit higher. So this has confused it. But I mean, overall, if you're looking at something, the trend doesn't lie. I mean, the weekly trend might lie right now. Let's go ahead and look at the weekly here on NIO. This is going to be the price through today. So this really isn't representative as a weekly. So you can look at these dates, but it's really not that important if you want to pause for a moment. It's still bullish. It's still bullish, which, I mean, overall in the weekly, you still believe in the outcome potentially. This might be a good place to get long if you really believe in it, but you've now broken below the 23-week or so, or the 20-week, 21-week moving average. That's not great. Things are not looking great here in NIO land. We go ahead and look at the overall chart. Obviously, it's just ugly. I mean, this is, that's not a fun 9 months. I mean, if you timed it perfectly and you rode this down, you shorted it, then you rode this up, and then you sold it, then you shorted this now. Maybe you're having a good time, but overall, when I look at this, this is hard money. This is pennies in front of a steamroller, boys and girls. This is something you don't want to do with your time. When you look at the overall volume, look at that. The largest day that we see in the past 9 months, 214 million shares traded, while you have the price dropping 17%. That tells you nothing but bad things are possibly in the future, or at least they've already happened, and you're not going to say that the future is going to be predictive. But you will say that when you look at the data has to speak to you in a certain way. And right now it's giving a very clear message. NIO is going to have brighter days, but today is not that day. Right now, we can see that the volatility is rolling over. The correlation is currently negative. That actually should mean that the price should rise, which lets me know that the price that we're seeing right now in terms of that movement, this big candle today, that is representative of almost like an exogenous event. Like that is not really representative necessarily of any underlying derivative. This is something that's acting upon the stock, which is not characteristic, and it's going to change the characteristic of the stock. That might have been confusing, but it's really important to pay attention because when you look at these derivatives, which volatility is a derivative, similar to like how acceleration is a derivative of speed, right? Like how fast you get to somewhere is different than how fast you're going. So when we look at the correlation between the price, you can see that it's incredibly negative. The volatility is also falling. The price should be rising or going sideways. And it was trying to. The volatility, you can see the range. It had completely tightened up like it had back here. But before when it tightened up and then you got a big expansion, you got to move upwards. Now we're getting tight and we're probably getting an expansion now and the price is moving downwards. That's to truly be respected. When we look at the weekly sentiment range, I mean, it doesn't look much better. You're kind of still in the middle of the range. There's still hope on the weekly. Obviously, you're not going down to $4.61, but you want to be conscious of what this looks like. But tell me what you think in the comments below. Are you long? Are you short? Do you like it? Do you love it? Is this even a good review? And before you go, subscribe to the New High newsletter. We send you 25 stocks to your inbox every single Sunday, stocks between $5 and $20, stocks breaking out to one-year highs, all-time highs. It's a great list to review on a Sunday to get your trading week started. I'll talk to you soon.